Good morning, India. Good morning, humanity. Let me speak human. I have to discuss three documents mainly. It is about the last speech of Jogendra Nath Mandal in 1967 perhaps, and it is about Dr. Ambedkar's maiden speech in Constitution Assembly. And again, it is in thy name Ambedkar by Anand Tiltumde margin speak economic and political weekly. I know my status, my limit, my auqat. I am in Bengal for 25 years. I was born and brought up in Himalayan region. I travelled along Ganges from Gangotri to Ganga Sagar, and I have seen Kanyakumari. I have seen the borders along China and Bangladesh and Pakistan. I have seen the deserted Mohenjo-daro and Harappa, and I am trying my best to create a frame from which I should speak as a Aam Aadmi of India, a common, a citizen who is concerned about the nation, nature and humanity. That's my limit. I have been traveling across Hooghly last 25 years, almost 25 years. I have seen the closure, lockout, strikes, Bharat Bandh and devastation of Indian production system and the development under neoliberal economic reforms. I have witnessed the phenomenon of liberalization, privatization and globalization. I have watched life, the oil wars and Arabian Spring. But I did not see the partition of India, the great population transfer. I am seized within the war, and it is, I am afraid to say, it is a civil war. It is a Hindu-Muslim war. It is a caste war. And it is the logical result of the concept of two nations on which power was transferred to the warring camps who claimed to be the representatives of Hindus and Muslims. Baba Saheb, Dr. Ambedkar and Jogendra Nath Mandal both represented the scheduled caste federation who fought for the Bahujan Samaj cause and for whom Baba Saheb signed the Pune Pact, on which the political structure is based in India, and we want to address this phenomenon because the governance of fascism, the blind nationalism of Hindutva agenda and the brute ethnic cleansing, blatant apartheid, the genocide culture roots in that very phenomenon of partition which continues still today. Baba Saheb and Jogendranath Mandal represented the Dalits, but they had no hand in partition. Cabinet Commission met Baba Saheb twice, but Baba Saheb had no impact on cabinet proposals. Jogendranath Mandal considered Baba Saheb his leader even after he wrote the Constitution of Pakistan, and he had been the Law Minister of India during direct action in Kolkata, and he had been the Law Minister of Pakistan during the riots in Punjab and Pakistan due to the population transfer. And Dr.BR Ambedkar and Jogendranath Mandal, both of them were concerned with the fallout. They were concerned for the life, property and citizenship of the victims of partition, the scheduled caste Hindus stranded in East and West Pakistan. Thus, Baba Saheb and Jogendranath Mandal claimed, advised Mr. Mandal to stay in Pakistan and to align with Muslim League in the best interest of the stranded Hindus in Pakistan. And in his last speech, Jogendranath Mandal claimed that he fought against the partition of Bengal, and he was criticized. And Dr. Ambedkar said that the Dalits were not in a position to enact partition or to intervene in partition or to stop in partition. Jogendranath Mandal supported this value, and he said in his last speech আমি যোগেন্দ্র মন্ডল বঙ্গভঙ্গের বিরুদ্ধে তীব্র আন্দোলন করেছি, এজন্য আমাকে বহু কটূক্তি শুনতে হয়েছে। যেমন বঙ্গভঙ্গের বিরুদ্ধে যোগেন মন্ডলের ওকালতি। আমি বুঝেছি বঙ্গভঙ্গ হলে হিন্দু মুসলমান উভয় ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হবেন। It was the perspective of Jogendranath Mandal that if Bengal was partitioned, Hindu as well as Muslim would be at a loss. I have to remind Jyotiba Phule from Maharashtra and Guruchan Thakur from Bengal. These two leaders warned against Hindu Rashtra before Baba Saheb, Dr. Ambedkar. Jyotiba Phule and Guruchan Thakur refused to support the Swadeshi movement led by Congress because they believed that Congress was working to sustain the Manusmriti rule and it is trying to get the helms of the nation and it would be a disaster. And Jogendranath Mandal is speaking exactly that. আমি বুঝেছি বঙ্গভঙ্গ হলে হিন্দু মুসলমান উভয়ই ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হবেন, বিশেষ করে অশিক্ষিত এবং গরিব যারা সামান্য চাষ আবাদ করে জীবিকা নির্বাহ করেন তাদের ভাগ্যে চরম দুর্দশা নেমে আসবে। তখন কংগ্রেস ও কমিউনিস্ট পার্টি বঙ্গভঙ্গ সমর্থন করে আমাকে গালমন্দ করেছে। He is meaning the partition of Bengal in 1947, not in 1905, which was stopped because Bengali intelligentsia led by Tagore and other icons jointly protested that partition, and within a odd 40 years that very Bengali intelligentsia, the Hindu majority opted for partition of Bengal, and Jogendranath Mandal was against this partition, and he said that the partition victims were illiterate and poor peasants. Partition victims belong to the agrarian communities and their version is totally deleted. The version of Jogendranath Mandal is total deleted, and in Bengal he is a tragic hero who was painted as the betrayer, Gaddar, and it is campaigned by the Hindutva camp that Jogendranath Mandal aligned with Muslim League and hence Bengal was partition. And Jogendranath Mandal said, দেশভাগের পরে আমি পূর্ববঙ্গে গেলাম কেন? Why did he opted to remain in East Bengal? ইহার উত্তর বহু জনসভায় বহুবার দিয়েছি। দেশভাগ যখন অবধারিত হয়ে গেল তখন আমার নেতা ডক্টর বি.আর. আম্বেদকরের সাথে আলোচনা করি। The correspondence is available. It is documented. Dr.BR Ambedkar and Jogendra Nath Mandal realized that partition was inevitable and they were in regular correspondence. And Jogendra Nath Mandal said, I sought Baba Saheb's opinion, and Baba Saheb said, Mr. Mandal, কংগ্রেস ও লীগের দেশভাগের প্রস্তাব ব্রিটিশ সরকার মেনে নিয়েছেন। The British government, the British Raj accepted the proposal of partition agreed upon by Congress and Muslim League. আমাদের কথা শুনেননি। Baba Saheb told that Dalits were not considered. SC, ST, OBC and tribals, the Bahujan Samaj was not considered at all. Cabinet Commission had no public hearing. And Dr. Anand Tiltumre said that we may have documents about Netaji, we may have the cabinet papers declassified, but we cannot get the cabinet mission proposals. What was going on in between Congress and Muslim League leaders and British Raj, it is top secret, defended, and those documents are classified, and those documents may not be traced in this geopolitics, and we don't know what document lies in British archive. We cannot look it in gadgets, in military history, and if declassified, there won't be the details of the informal discussion held and the decision of partition was made, and those demarcation of Hindustan and Pakistan, the inclusion and exclusion of this geography in that partition, it is untold, it is a secret. And Baba Saheb had that grievance. Even in his first speech, in Dr. Ambedkar's maiden speech in Constitution Assembly, is full of that grievance. And for that cause, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, because in Bengal, the peasantry was united, and here is another point, it was Fazlul Haq, Matua movement, and the Adivasi, Kisan, and the Bahujan Samaj uprising and revolts were continued in Bengal since Chuar Bidroh, Indigo revolt, Sannasi Bidroh, up to Tebhaga movement. And the peasantry was intact, for which Muslim League had no impact in Bengal until Mr. Fazlul Haq, the leader of Indian peasantry, who fought for land reforms, were dethroned as Congress withdrew support from his government and Muslim League formed government the two governments after Fazlul Haq, the Najibullah government, the Suharabadi government. Fazlul Haq government was the government of Praja Krisak party, and it had the agenda of land reforms, and Netaji pleaded the Congress leadership to support Mr. Fazlul Haq, and Congress denied. That's the story we have to understand. It is very, very important that in India it was the Prime Minister of United Bengal, the first Prime Minister of United Bengal, the leader of Praja Krisak party, Mr. Fazlul Haq, and his government passed the first act, enacted the first legislation to ensure the right of the riots. The farmers who harvested, their rights were ensured before partition, before the independence of Hindustan and Pakistan by Mr. Fazlul Haq. And Fazlul Haq was made Mahishasur by the goddess of Hindu, Ma Durga. That's the story, and nobody knows Mr. Fazlul Haq. And we know that Netaji is fascist. He was not fascist. The man, throughout his life, he was fighting to sustain the inherent diversity, the inherent pluralism of India. And he, as Dr. Ambedkar himself, both of them considered the Hindutva has to become the governance of fascism in India. And Jyotiba Phule and Guruchan Thakur, both Bengal and Maharashtra leaders, were. And Master Tara Singh in Punjab, he simply questioned हिंदुओं को हिंदुस्तान मिला, पाकिस्तान को, मुसलमानों को पाकिस्तान को, मुसलमानों को पाकिस्तान को पाकिस्तान मिला, सिखों को क्या मिला? The Sikhs got the Sikh Genocide in 1984, and it is also the consequence of that partition, of that two-nation theory. And Jogendranath Mandal's this document is very important. He said in his last speech that Baba Saheb advised him to stay in Pakistan because he believed just because of united peasantry, the Hindus, particularly in East Pakistan, would not come in mass in India, and they would be stranded in Pakistan. And Baba Saheb advised to lead those stranded Hindus in East and West Pakistan. So he stayed in Pakistan. And we would be decoding this document very well. Now see, our friend, I discussed with Dr. Anand Tumde, because this is a very complex puzzle. We want to understand the in-depth story of partition so that we may address the problem of this blind nationalism which is making enemies across the border. It is war on the borders and it is war within the borders. And Baba Saheb warned against that. In his first speech, Baba Saheb dealt with the Hindu-Muslim problem, and he was speaking reconciliation. He addressed Mr. Syama Prasad Mukherjee, and he said the Muslim population, he said, if there is anybody who has in his mind the project of solving the Hindu-Muslim problem by force, which is another name of solving it by war, in order that the Muslims may be subjugated and made to surrender to the constitution that might be prepared without their consent, the country would be involved in perpetually conquering them. The conquest would not be once and forever. I do not wish to take more time than I have taken, and I will conclude by again referring to Burke. Burke has said somewhere that it is easy to give power, it is difficult to give wisdom. Let us prove by our conduct that if this assembly has arrogated to itself sovereign powers, it is prepared to exercise them with wisdom. That is the only way by which we can carry with us all sections of country. There is no other way that can lead us to unity. Let us have no doubt on that point. Baba Saheb had no doubt. But we miss the point. We miss the wisdom. We miss the conscience. We miss the humanity. And we are arrogant because we have the sovereign power. And unfortunately, the sovereign power is the Manusmriti hegemony, which subjects the SC, ST, OBC, Adivasi and minorities for permanent, continuous persecution, continuous ethnic cleansing, for which Sikh genocide was enacted, and Sikhs have not got justice yet today, for which Gujarat genocide was enacted, for which Babri mosque was demolished, for which Bhopal gas strategy was enacted, and for which India opted for neoliberal free market economy. And it is an ET exclusive. Sweeping changes soon to draw more foreign money, FDI policy to be simplified, FIPB to meet twice a month for first and odd. I am not going into details. Please read Economic Times. Dr. Tel Tumre, he wrote, "In thy name, Ambedkar," in Economic and Political Weekly. Just because I posted the document of the first speech of Jogendranath Mandal, and I posted the article wrote by Dr. Tel Tumre, and I posted only the speech. I did not comment on Jogendranath Mandal's speech. I had to speak to Dr. Anand Tel Tumre. I discussed the puzzle of partition with him at length, and he said, he confirmed that Baba Saheb made cabinet commission, and in his first speech, Mr. Syama Prasad Mukherjee was the person who questioned the regulation which was dealing with the making of Indian Constitution. He questioned in reference to cabinet proposal that it should be the regulation and the formation of Indian Constitution, the constitutional framework should be in accordance to cabinet commission proposals. Nehru knew about that cabinet commission proposals. Mr. Sama Prasad Mukherjee also knew about the cabinet commission proposal. Then the Prime Minister of Bihar, Mr. M.R. Jogendra, who demanded the inclusion of Muslim League as a party to make the framework of Indian Constitution, he knew the cabinet proposals. Even perhaps Dr. Baba Saheb knew at least the formal part of the cabinet proposals. But we, the Indian people, we are unaware of the cabinet proposals. Netaji documents are not enough. Cabinet papers are not enough. It is high time declassify those cabinet proposals. Let us see through the conspiracies, the warring groups, warring camps, which were fighting for the helms of the nations all over the geopolitics in Pakistan as well as India. Because we have to expose that phenomenon. Otherwise, we can't face the problem. And Dr. Til Tumde said that Baba Saheb knew that the partition was inevitable. Jogendra Nath Mandal also knew the partition was inevitable, and it would be the Bahujan Samaj who would be the victims of partition, as Jyotiba Phule was afraid of, as Guru Chan Thakur was afraid of, and it turned to happen. The Sikhs, they were not Hindus. They were killed in Pakistan. Yes, the Hindus were also killed in Pakistan. Then the Muslims were killed in Delhi and in North India and specifically in Punjab. And the Dalits were killed in East Pakistan, and they have been scattered all over India. In Punjab, Dalits are 29%. In Bengal, Dalits are only 19%. And Adivasi is only 7%. 19 plus 7, if we say the Adivasi and Dalits would align, and it has not to be. Even then, it would be only 26%. And the ruling hegemony has the support of the rest. And that is the story of the Bengal hegemony. And it is the scientific hegemony of demography due to the demographic readjustment due to the population transfer. Dr. Til Tumde told me yesterday the Dalits were degenerated, and the Dalits of East Bengal, the Namashudra, the Pando Kshatriya and Rajbangshi, who were leading the Dalit uprising in East Bengal, who were leading the peasantry, the united peasantry, who were the followers of Mr. Fazlul Haq, had been scattered all over India, and Namasudra, Rajvanshi and Pondro Khatriya had no role in India or Bangladesh. That's it. It happened. And the bonus is that Jogendranath Mandal is declared a betrayer, and hence there is no scope of change in Bengal, change in the real sense. The representation of Bahujan Samaj, the leadership of Dalit, Bahujan, Muslim, OBC is denied, and it would not and never would be recognized. It's the story. And thus, the Hindutva has to rule in India. It was predestined. And now, we had a long discussion, and we would disclose our points as soon as we get the documents, and as we get the documents, we would be publish the documents first, and then we would explain. We are not jumping to any conclusion, and it is not the final statement at all. And Dr. Ambedkar wrote, there is a rush for memorials dedicated to Ambedkar. The Sangh Parivar is leaving no stone unturned to appropriate Ambedkar, who given his vitriolic comments on Hinduism should have been their greatest enemy. At the same time, the gap between the Dalits and non-Dalits continues to widen, and atrocities against Dalits continue with impunity. It is the intro of the Economic Times article, and I am only reading some parts. You have to read this article on Economic Times or on Hastakshep or on my blogs. Beyond memorials, the government has already declared that the entire year that brings up his 125th birth anniversary shall be celebrated with several programs, provoking the rival Congress to launch a grand rally in Mahu along with the conference of Dalit intellectuals to celebrate the centenary of Ambedkar's graduation for Columbia University. The three Dalit Rams who played Hanuman to Bharatiya Janata Party during the last elections can rightly claim credit for all this. Indeed, what more would Ambedkarites ask for? The only person who would be sad at this development, however, is Ambedkar himself. Sadly, his followers, intoxicated with identitarian pride, were indulged in caste war and caste identity, will never understand this ruling class ploy to blind them to their own reality. And further, Teltumbre wrote, it is interesting to note that on one hand, the Sangh Parivar and its BJP government are waxing eloquent over Ambedkar, but on the other hand, they are systematically defiling his secular legacy. It is very, very important. They are defiling the secular legacy, and the Hindutva Parivar is making reincarnation of Baba Saheb Dr. Ambedkar as Vishnu avatar, as they reincarnated Gautam Buddha as the avatar of Vishnu. And it had been the defiling of Mr. Fazlul Haq, it had been the defiling of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and it had been the defiling of Mr. Jogendra Nath Mandal. It is the fundamental phenomenon of Manusmriti rule fascism and the Hindutva agenda. And I am afraid that the speech could not be loaded if I go at lengthy. We have published the first speech, the maiden speech in Dr. Ambedkar's maiden speech in the CA. It is published and hastagship, and in all my blogs you can see it there. I am writing I am just reading the document. It is very important, and let me see how much I read. Mr. Chairman, the resolution in the light of discussion that has gone on since yesterday obviously divides into two parts. One part which is controversial and another part which is no controversial. The part which is non-controversial is the part which comprises paragraph 5 to 7 of this resolution. These paragraphs set out the objectives of future constitution of this country. I must confess that coming as the resolution does from Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who is reputed to be a socialist, this resolution, although no controversial, is to my mind very, very disappointing. I should have expected him to go much further than he has done in the part of the resolution. As a student of history, I should have preferred this part of the resolution not being embodied in it at all. When one reads that part of the resolution, it reminds us one of the Declaration of the Rights of Man, which was pronounced by the French Constituent Assembly. I think I am right in suggesting that after the lapse of practically 450 years, the Declaration of Rights of Man and the principles which are embodied in it has become part and parcel of our mental makeup. I say that they have become not only the part and parcel of the mental makeup of modern man in every civilized part of the world, but also in our own country, which is also orthodox. So archaic in its thought and its social structure, hardly anyone can found to deny its validity. To repeat it now as the resolution does is, to say the least, pure pedantry. These principles have become the silent, immaculate premise of our outlook. It is therefore unnecessary to proclaim as forming a part of our creed. The resolution suffers from certain other lacuna. I found that this part of resolution, although it enunciates certain rights, does not speak of remedies. All of us are aware of the fact that rights are nothing unless remedies are provided whereby people can seek to obtain redress when rights are invaded. It is exactly happening. The rights are invaded, the fundamental rights are violated, the human rights are violated, the civic rights are violated, the citizenship is deprived and denied and violated, the sovereignty is violated, and we have no remedies, and we may not obtain or we may not seek to obtain redress as the rights are invaded. The right, मेहनत कशों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं, किसानों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं, आम नागरिकों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं, स्त्री के अधिकार खत्म हो रहे हैं, दलितों बहुजनों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं और उन पर एकाधिकारवादी हमला हो रहा है, मुसलमानों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं, सिखों के हक हकूक खत्म हो रहे हैं, नरसंहार संस्कृति है, लेकिन we have no remedies, we may not redress. It was declared, it was warned by Baba Saheb. Even the unusual formula that no man's life, liberty and property, Baba Saheb told, even the unusual formula that no man's life, liberty and property shall be taken without the due process of law finds no place in the regulation. These fundamental rights set out are made subject to law and morality. Obviously, what is law, what is morality will be determined by the executive of the day. Baba Saheb said, what is law and what is morality, it would be determined by the executive of the day, and when the executive may take one view, another executive may take another view, and we do not know what exactly would be the position with regard of fundamental rights. That's the problem. And Baba Saheb warned, if this matter is left to executive of the day, sir, there are here certain provisions which speak of justice, economical, social and political. If this regulation has a reality behind it and a sincerity of which I have not the least doubt, coming as it does from the mover of the regulation, I should have expected some provision where it would have been possible for a state to make economic, social, political justice a reality, and I should have from that point of view expected the regulation to state in most explicit terms in order that there may be a social and economic justice in that country. It is the social and economic justice for which Baba Saheb struggled. And now I came to the first part of the regulation, which includes the first 4 paragraphs, as I said, from the debate that has gone on in this house, which has become a matter of controversy. The controversy seems to be centered on the use of word republic. It is centered on a sentence occurring in paragraph 4, the sovereignty is derived from the people. Thereby, it arises from the point made by my friend Dr. Jayakar yesterday that in the absence of the Muslim League, it would not be proper so this assembly to process to deal with this regulation. Now, sir, I have got not the slightest doubt in my mind as to future regulation and the ultimate shape of social, political and economic structure of this great country. I know today we are divided politically, socially, economically. This divide continues, I am afraid to say. Baba Saheb told, I know today we are divided politically, socially and economically. We are a group of warring camps, and Baba Saheb accepted. I may go to even to extent to confessing that I am probably one of the leaders of a such camp, the Dalit camp. Other 2 camps were the camps, other 3 camps, let me say, the camp of Muslim, the camp of Hindus who got the power, and Sikhs and Dalits were denied in that process of transfer of power, and they became the victims of the partition. Yes, please read this document, and just I want to read the cabinet mission proposal. Yes, I got it. In the course of the debate that took place, there were 2 questions which were raised, which struck me so well that I took the trouble of taking down on the piece of paper. The one question was, I think, by my friend, the Prime Minister of Bihar, who spoke yesterday in this assembly. He said, how can the regulation prevent the leak from coming into the Constitution Assembly? Today, my friend Today, my friend Dr. Syama Prasad Mukherjee asked another question: is the resolution inconsistent with the cabinet mission's proposal? Sir, I think they are very important questions and they ought to be answered and answered categorically. I do maintain that this resolution, whether it is intended to bring about the result or not, whether it is a result of cold calculation or whether it is a mere matter of accident, is bound to have the result of keeping the Muslim League out. In this connection, I should like to invite your attention to paragraph 3 of the resolution, which I think 13/10 is very significant and very important. Paragraph 3 envisages the future constitution of India. I do not know what is the intention of the mover of the resolution, but I take it that after the resolution passed, it will act as a sort of directive to the Constitution Assembly to frame a constitution in terms of para 3 of the resolution. What does para 3 says? Paragraph 3 says that in this country there shall be two different sets of polity, one of the bottom autonomous provinces or the states of such or such other areas as care to join a united India. These autonomous units will have full power. They will have also residuary powers at the top over the provincial units. There will be a union government having certain subjects of legislation for education and for administration. I read this part of regulation. That's it. And you have to go through the document. Thanks for you have to bear this lengthy part of discussion. I am still abroad where this could be uploaded. Thank you, India. Thank you, humanity. It is 9:28 a.m. in Kolkata and it is hot. Thanks.